Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
A pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Today's guest menu for April the 29th is the following. Charles Edmond joins us for the whole show today. Also, following Charles Edmond will be Coach Vann Pettaway. We'll be talking some NBA playoffs. And then last but not least, Willow Brown will join us on today's show. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Southern University baseball prepares for the home stretch in conference play. They got off to a good start this weekend, taking on the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Will any HBCU football players get drafted on the last day of the NFL draft? Aubrey Miller, Isaiah Lance, hoping to land a spot in the NFL via the draft. And then a huge baseball matchup this weekend between FAMU and Alabama State. We'll dive right into some baseball to start off today's show. Joined now by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. A little rain in the air and rain in the forecast today. I'm here actually for softball tomorrow. Big softball series as our Lady Braves softball team tries to qualify for the tournament, and it depends on what happens down in Baton Rouge with Prairie View and Southern University. Southern can be eliminated with a loss or a Lady Braves win tomorrow. So some action here in Pine Bluff tomorrow and some action down in Baton Rouge to determine one of the two final spots on the Western Division.
Well, I did pull up baseball standings, courtesy of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and also the softball standings. We'll come back to softball. Southern baseball prepares for the home stretch. And the biggest question all season, and it will continue for the rest of the season, can the Jaguars get any kind of supportive pitching, whether it's from the bullpen? I know in the midpoint of the season, they were still working on that. Starting pitching has been inconsistent, but that is a big question going into the last or the home stretch of the SWAC baseball conference season. I looked briefly at some stats. The ERA, Southern University is near the bottom, even in hitting. So we've talked about it the last couple of shows. Between Southern and Jackson State, they have really been disappointing seasons so far. Now, when you look at Southern, Charles, the last, 3 or 4 years, they've got a SWAC title in there. Last year, they battled Alabama State in that mammoth SWAC tournament championship game. And they've done it in the past where they were in the 4th or 3rd seed. Particularly, I remember the 3rd seed coming into the SWAC tournament, and then they turned it on. But one of those things about turning it on, you can do it consistently, but at some point, when does it catch up with you? And if we kind of look at the standings right now in baseball, top 4 teams from the East, top 4 for the West. Let's go in the West. Grambling State, 14-4, Prairie View 12-5, Southern 11-6, Texas Southern 9-7. Now I want to make sure that that's right, Charles. Check me out. Make sure that's right. I just pulled it up this morning from the Southwestern Athletic Conference. In the East, Alabama State, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. So if the tournament started today, Alabama State, number 1 seed, FAMU, number 2, coming out of the East, 3, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State, 4th. Grambling State, 1, Prairie View 2, Southern 3, and Texas Southern 4. So Grambling State and Jackson State, correct, would kick it off. Alabama State and Texas Southern. But you get my drift. It'll be competitive, but you want to be playing good baseball going into the SWAC tournament.
That's right. And we've seen in other sports how the regular season, not saying you diminish it, but it's when you're playing your best at the most important time. And so for baseball, as we've seen the number 4 seed push it for the SWAC tournament championship. And so for right now, with a month left, I think teams are just trying to stay as healthy as they can, trying to avoid the midweek games. I know Southern and Texas Southern had a little bit of a quirk in terms of playing some midweek makeups, which may have to be made up at some point in the next few weeks because the tournament starts in a few weeks in Atlanta. But I think, right now it's just trying to stay healthy. I think right now, what I saw last night from Texas Southern's kind of a different team. In years past, They were a team that could steal a lot of bases, not a lot of contact, but they've got power in the lineup. They've got a little bit of speed, and they've got some really good pitching. And so I think this is a different Mike Robb coach team than what we've seen in the past. Southern University, I think they're fine in terms of, I know fans are a little upset in terms of how they're playing right now. But I think that this team has the cachet. Coach Crenshaw has the cachet in winning a championship and making a deep run last year. It's all about just trying to find your rotation. It's all about trying to play better baseball as you get ready to go to Atlanta. There's no threat of Southern falling out of the top 4. The last 2 seeds will be Texas Southern or Southern, 3-4, 4-3. So they're going to be in the tournament. So now this is an opportunity for you to figure out what you got, what you don't have, kind of mix and match the lineup a little bit, and try to move and try to do the best that you can and stay as healthy as you can, because the tournament is still almost a month away. And so you still have to play some games and you still have to figure some things out. Because if you go to Atlanta and you're 2 and out, let's say, and it doesn't matter whether you're 3 or you're 4, you're going to take on probably the 2 best teams, one of the 2 best teams in the whole conference. I think you can clearly say that if you wanted to see the teams, the top 5 teams in flag baseball right now, I think you can pretty much say the vast majority of them will be on the eastern side. Bama State, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M. Southern's going to take on one of those teams. So you want to be playing your best by the time you get to the tournament and playing one of those teams, because if not, you get in the loser's bracket and then you're in a whole bunch of trouble. So right now, I think if you're Southern, if you're Texas Southern, you're just trying to play the best baseball that you can play, find your rotation, try to find different lineup combinations, and try to stay as healthy as you can at this point.
Well, Charles, you seem to be a lot more confident than I am with Southern baseball, but I hope they can turn it on. Coach Crenshaw says we're looking for a 3rd starter. We've been looking all year. He wants them to continue to be competitive. They lost 2 of 3 from Grambling State last weekend. So, cautiously optimistic, a lot of worries. And, hey, I understand you can fall back on or go to guidance from how you've battled back from coming from the 3rd seed to win a championship and then getting back the next year and in extra innings losing to Alabama State. But this team has been consistently inconsistent. And unless something major happens, I look at the baseball team the same way, and they will definitely have their work cut out for them. Now, as I pull up the baseball scores from last night, the Jaguars against Arkansas Pine Bluff, they go on the road. They take game 1, 10-1. Elsewhere in conference play, Prairie View over Grambling, 8-5, and that game was in Grambling. Prairie View been strongly consistent the whole year. They're just there. Nobody talks about them a lot, but they're right there. Also, Texas Southern over Alcorn State, 9-2. In 13 innings, Bethune-Cookman goes on the road and defeat Jackson State 9-7. And then, and it was one of my trending stories, a huge baseball matchup, FAMU at Alabama State. Boy, must have been a lot of good pitching and defense. Alabama State defeats FAMU 1-0 in game 1. All those teams will play today, but Charles, huge matchup in Montgomery. Alabama State gets it done 1-0 over a previously hot FAMU baseball team.
And it just shows you that, with Alabama State, they won it last year. They won the tournament. And the reason why they won the tournament, in my opinion, is because they had enough arms to outlast Southern University. If you look at Alabama State over the years, when Merville Melendez was coach, now Coach Vasquez, he's kind of built for that too. They can never have enough pitching. They might have 20 arms on their roster. They just believe they can beat you 1-0. They believe their pitching's good enough. And I think that's what you saw last night. And I think if Bama State, and I look at last year's tournament, and there were pitchers in that tournament last year that were hardly used. And that's part of the reason why they were able to outlast Southern University. They had a fresher staff as far as arms are concerned, to me. So I think that's the type of game that they want to play, and they feel like good pitching in postseason will always, pitching and defense will win you a conference championship. So Bama State, you cannot sleep on them, but you got to look at Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M. Those two much improved, from years past. Jackson State kind of stumbling along a little bit, but, Jackson State has that pedigree. Omar Johnson knows how to mix and match in terms of, once you get to the postseason. But I think that 1-0 score, that's Alabama State baseball. They can beat you all day 1-0 because they have the arms to do it. So I'm not surprised at all of that type of score in the tournament. They would just like to beat you 3-1 and just completely wear you out. And that's Alabama State baseball to me.
Yeah, looking in the chat room, appreciate it. VW, SU isn't that far out of first place. SU was playing like this in Crenshaw's first season and shocked the world. The baseball tournament is wide open. I truly believe anyone can beat anyone. Well, technically that's true, Varric. But the concern is, I think, legitimate for Southern University. Hey, they may turn it on. They may go on a winning streak to close out the season. They have shown in the past that they can get hot during tournament time. I hope that is the case. I really do. But I do have some concerns. VW, hopefully I'll have your enthusiasm going forward. Good morning to everyone, Johnny, and everyone in the chat room. We appreciate you. Charles, as we wrap up, Angela, good morning. As we wrap up this first segment, we'll take a break. Will any HBCU football players get drafted on this last day of the NFL draft?
I hope so. We hope so. Just based on what we saw day one and Will Levis dropping to day two. I mean, who knows what today's going to bring? I think that was the surprise coming out of day one. I really do hope so, Carlos, because these players from HBCUs have worked their tails off to put themselves in position. Land and others, the HBCU combine and other combines at these different campuses, they've worked their tails off to show off what they have. And so we hope today, and we expect today, that there will be some players picked, selected. I would like to see it. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping, because there's a lot of talent out there, and hopefully some of these players will land somewhere here in day 3 of the draft.
Well, 2 names come to mind: Aubrey Miller, woman of Jackson State, and Isaiah Lands. So with that being said, we hope so. And so many times it's the free agent route for a lot of the HBCU players. Jatiri Carter last year getting drafted. So hopefully, cautiously optimistic that some HBCU football players will be drafted. If not, it's not the end of the road. You still can have that career, but a lot of the players have worked their tail off in the HBCU Legacy Bowl. That helps to get those football players out there, and you have a chance for the scouts to come in and general managers to kind of take a look. So we're hoping for the best. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, it'll be more of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Carlos Brown here, joined by Charles Edmond. Our guests for today's show, of course, besides Charles Edmond, will be Coach Vann Pettaway and also Willer Brown. It's going to be interesting to talk with Coach Vann Pettaway. We're going to talk a little NBA playoffs. Just in my opinion, so far, the playoffs have been spectacular, to say the least. And I'm sure I'm going to get a chance to talk about here's my homer moment. My NBA team that I've been following for quite a while, since 2006, the Miami Heat. They did the unmentionable. They knocked off the number one seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. And look, I get it. Guinness was injured for first couple of games, but then he came back, and his first game back, a triple-double. But Jimmy Playoff Butler, got it done. 56 points in one game, closeout game in Milwaukee, which is tough, but 40 plus. And he's leading his team right now. And of course, Miami, they've lost Hero with a broken hand. Victor Oladipo, wow. Man, another knee injury. And so they've lost some good points. Yeah, Miami Heat defeat Milwaukee Bucks 4-1. You're right, Brian. But now I've got to calm down. Can't be too excited. Now they take on the Knicks. But we'll talk a little bit about all of the games in the NBA playoffs. But speaking of basketball, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Kelvin Johnson, new men's basketball coach at Southern University. He spoke recently this week at the Baton Rouge Rotary Club, and we took a little bit of what he said at that event, and we're going to bring it to you right now.
I want to build a program with a culture of work, the way I was raised. I want to build a team that shares the ball and are not concerned with who made the basket, but just happy that we made the basket. I also want a team that is tough on the defensive end, that fights you for inches and fights you for rebounds and loose balls. Those are the building blocks. That is my task. That's what I'm trying to do at Southern University. We have hit the ground running. We have already signed 3 individuals coming in that will help next year's team. We're expecting a 4th signee any day now. And then after that, I'm hoping we can add 1 to 2 more players for next year's roster. And then everything will be all about the summer access program. The NCAA allows us 8 weeks of summer access and practice, and I'm looking forward to using all 8 of those weeks. And at this time, I'll take some questions if you have them.
And that was Kelvin Johnson, new men's basketball coach at Southern University. And next week, I hope to show you some footage of a couple of those basketball players. But Charles, he's off to a good start. Mark, did you notice? Speaking, he was sweating. That means he's a hard worker on and off the court. But excited to see what Coach Johnson gets a chance to bring back the shine to Southern University men's basketball program, which is rich, rich culture, rich heritage. I think he gets the job done. Great recruiter, knows the state of Louisiana, and you build from the inside out. But we'll see. I think he gets the job done in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Let's see if he gets and we'll have to get Coach Banks on to see what is the benchmarks for Coach Johnson. You know, I'll have mine, but that's just me. What can Coach Kevin Johnson bring to Southern?
Yeah, it looks like he's ready to go. He has a plan, and it's just a matter now of seeing what I think. To me, at this point, he's already introduced himself to the Jaguar Nation, to the SWAC, to me, to you, to other people who follow SWAC basketball. Just a matter now of getting his staff and getting his players. You know, who's going to stay, who's going to fit, you know, his philosophy, who will hit the portal, who he can pick up from the portal. What's his philosophy in terms of JUCOs and building from the high school ranks. I think that's next. He was hired early enough in the process so he can hit the ground sprinting instead of being behind the 8 ball and hitting the ground running really fast. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, how he is and what type of style. I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of players out there that to choose from, and we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It's just another piece. You know, Southern's a top 4 program to me. I've said this time and time again. So it's not like he's taking over a program was rock bottom. We have nowhere to go but up. Southern's a top 4, top 5 program. So he's got to keep it right there. If there's any slippage, then there's a problem. But if he keeps it right where it is and elevates, I think he'll get the backing of a lot of people.
Well, right now, he's got an A to start off because he's new and fresh. Let's take a look maybe at a couple of benchmarks. He's got incentives in his contract. We talked about it last week. $200,000 a year, a 4-year deal. The school holds a mutual option for 1 more year that Coach Johnson would have to sign off on, and the university. I think it is fair assessment to say in a 4-year period, 1 championship in the tournament, SWAC basketball tournament championship, consistently in the top 3. See, I'm going to say 3 instead of 4. And a couple of regular season championships plus a SWAC tournament championship. No scandals. That's a benchmark. And help those student athletes matriculate through their academic and athletic career. And I'll be happy. But that's just me. What do you think, Southernites? What put in the chat room a couple of benchmarks that you would like to see, or overall what this Southern program should be, could be. And
it almost sounds like, Carlos, you're looking at a mini Landon Bussey model. Landon Bussey's been there 3 years, 2 regular season championships. Yes, we've stumbled in the tournament. That's a black eye. There's no question about that. But
at least to get there, though. Yeah. I'll take that. And now, what else does Bussey have to do? Another tournament championship?
Well, I think it's about the tournament. He's won 2 regular season titles. He's hung 2 banners. Well, he will hang a second banner in the Whitney Arena. It's about making a deep run and winning the SWAC tournament. That's what it's all about. You know, we've been to 2 NIT games, so you can check that off the box. So it's about getting to the tournament and winning the thing. That's what it's about, and it's going to be tough because we've had a bunch of players from last year's team that made an impact that are in the portal. Got a lot of work to do, but he feels like and I saw him the other day, and we talked recently. He feels like the players that are on this roster right now are good enough to be top 2, top 3, top 4 in the conference right now without the pieces that will be coming on board. Jeremiah Gambrill from Prairie View, a kid from Louisiana, a really good player, and some more bigs coming in. So I think he feels like with the system, with the way as tough as he coaches them up, top 4 right now. But Southern University is in that boat as well. I think if you look at that program, top 4, top 5, if you build upon that, then you will be in the top 3. I mean, you look at Alcorn, you look at Texas Southern, you look at Grambling. Those are your top 3. So now, where does Southern fit in that? Is Southern that solid 4, or can you make the case of teams like UAPB, Jackson State? Can you say right now, is Jackson State right now better than Southern University? The roster, Jackson State just got a huge transfer. From Ole Miss, that's going to be. I read a post today that said he could average 30 a game in the conference. I mean, he's pretty good. So
now wait a minute, Charles. 30.
I'm just.
I understand what you're saying, but my goodness, that's a lot of.
That is a lot of pressure. There is a lot, but I think there's a little bit of pressure on Mo Williams too. He's got to ratchet it up right now because your top 3 are solid. Alcorn, Texas Southern, Grambling. Those are your top. That's solid. That's rock solid. There's no wavering there. So now let's look at the next tier. Who's in that? Who starts the next tier? Is it Southern? Is it Jackson State? Don't know. I mean, so you got a first-year coach, and then you got a second-year coach in Mo Williams, and first-year coach at Southern University, and Kelvin Johnson. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how those programs elevate. If I don't expect Grambling to get any slippage. Dante Jackson just got a new contract, fresh 4-year deal, probably with a raise, a bunch of incentives. So I think Grambling will be there. Landon Bussey is going to get an extension most likely. That's solid. Johnny Jones, solid. So, where does Southern fit into that? Do they 4, 5, 6? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see on that.
I don't. I will accept the 4th, but a goal of 3 or 2 or 1, and you always want to be competitive. Desmond says he expects Southern to dominate. That's his benchmark for Southern University. But I think the advantage for Coach Johnson, his recruiting. Give him an A+ with that, knowing the state, and just based on the 3 players, and he's waiting for a 4th to come in. I think it keeps them right where they are, according to Charles Edmond, a top 4 team in the conference. You bring in a JUCO player, and I'll look up his name, leading scorer in the nation last year. The young man played at Scotlandville High School, and they're getting him from the JUCO. Then a 6'8". Small forward, 6'8", but he plays like a guard, and he's down in a prep school in I think Biloxi, Gulfport, Mississippi, and then they're getting a combo. Well, I say combo guard, but a 6'1" guard from Louisiana, but transfers in from Stephen F. Austin. So this is why I'm really giving him an A+ as far as his recruiting prowess. Also, being an assistant a lot of years in the game, my goal for year 1 will be a top 3 finish. I guess that's a lot of pressure, because if you look at the team last year, and if he's adding 3 players right now, a 4th one waiting on the portal. You still have a lot of student athletes in there. Will he lose some players? But because of his recruiting prowess, I think he gets them in there. The main thing is get that chemistry, playing together. He mentioned the 8 weeks in the summer. That's going to be critical. A lot of teams go play, in the Bahamas, or they'll go in Mexico to get that competition, play in Canada. I'm confident that a top 3 finish would be the benchmark or the goal for year one. And then as he articulates into that 4-year period, a couple of regular season championships, and at least a tournament championship won, I'll accept that. Hopefully, it'll be more than one. But I get it. It's a very competitive Alcorn, Grambling State, Prairie View. You can't forget about them. There are some good programs that have played well. Let us see.
Yep.
I've just put a lot of pressure on Coach Johnson. I understand that.
If I had to put some money on it right now, I would say Southern's going to finish outside the top 4. If I had to put some money on it right now, record this, Brian Fulford. Let's put it in the clip and save file right now. I'm going to say right now that Jackson, I will put Jackson at 4, and I'll put Southern outside of that.
I will put Southern at 4 right now. And you know why? Based on last year, Southern had a huge lead on them. They took care of Jackson State. But we'll see. We'll see, Charles. You say outside, and I get it. A new coach coming in. Charles, Southern outside top 4. I see some. We have some more comments that coming in as far as benchmarks for this Coach Johnson. But maybe to help some of you make up your mind, I'll have the footage for next week of those 3 basketball players. And I'll just say right now that based on what I've seen in the conference, they are comparable to the talent that's in the conference right now. It'll be, again, a chemistry issue. Coach Johnson and his staff get in and work and with them. And that summer is important for everybody, all of the teams, where you can build some continuity and some chemistry and get things done. So I'll see that bet, Charles, and I'll raise it 1. I say 3rd place is a good benchmark.
I just think, to me, and Landon Mussey might be an outlier, coming in where the program was a 6 seed, number 1 in year 1, and then 2 regular season titles in year 2 and year 3. Is that an outlier? Is that an exception? Probably so. But I just think the word continuity and chemistry, the 2 C's, in this league, it's kind of hard to get that right away. And so there are going to be some players that won't buy in. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be real, because I've seen this in real time with our coach. Players are not going to buy in because they're used to what they're used to. So either they're going to get adjusted quickly, or they're going to be pushed aside and they're going to hit the portal. And in that continuity, that takes away just a little bit of steam. So that's why I think that when you're at a high level like Southern was, I think there will be a little bit of a drop. Like I said, I don't see them finishing inside the top 4. If I'm going to just put a number on it, I would say 6th. I would say 6th, middle of the pack.
Wow, Charles, wait a minute. Everybody, because of the portal, the situation of the portal, players are coming and going every year. So every team has a chemistry issue, or they have to get it done. But then I think you rely on good coaching to overcome that and get those players that are in to buy into it. Then it goes back to coaching. I was having a discussion with someone this week. That transfer portal, it's good, but then it's also bad in a way. You are seeing student athletes going to multiple schools, 3 schools in a calendar year. But guess what? NCAA is going to stop that. We talked about it about a month ago. You'll be allowed to move once, and then the second time you will have to show just cause. Like if a parent gets sick or a student athlete loses a parent, to get close to home to help the other parent out, et cetera, one of those situations. But I'll get you want to stick by that 6th place. You just giving them motivation if they're watching. 6th place. Wow. I don't see it. But I love
the Jaguar Nation. I love them. I love coming to Southern University every time. But I think that this continuity, even though the portal is a lot of talent, I just think it's going to be tougher than people might think to try to get inside the top 3, top 4. I think Jackson will be improved. I could see Southern as a 6 or a 5 in year 1. We're talking about year 1 now. Year 1. After that, I do see them dramatically improving. But in year 1, I think it's going to be a push and a pull in year 1, because I think you've got some attitudes in terms of just players used to what they're used to. Coaches got to clean that up quickly, move on quickly, pull from the portal quickly, and that continuity doesn't always mesh right away. So just like in any job in year 1, it's tough. It's tough in any job in year 1 when you're going from one job to the next. That first year, you don't even know what the break room is a lot of times. So there's going to be some tough situations. There's no doubt about it. Could I be wrong about that? Sure, I could. But I just think it's going to be a little tougher. You got a quality program, a little bit of pressure to stay on the top 4. I don't see it. I see 5. I see 6. I don't see anything below that, though. I think Southern's got too much talent there. Coach Johnson is a good coach, and I think he'll figure out a way to keep it right in the middle of the pack. I do see a little bit of a slippage in year 1, but then I do see improvement going forward from there. Kind of like Landon Bussey, year 2, year 3, back-to-back regular seasons. I can see some of that, but in year 1, I do think it's because even in Landon Bussey in year 1, it was tough, man. It was tough getting players to buy into that defensive philosophy. It was really, really hard. And I think, and I saw it firsthand with my own 4 eyes, I think it's going to be kind of the same way at Southern University, just buying into the way he does things, the way he runs practice, the grind. I do think some people will fall by the wayside, and I think it's going to be tough. But I think after that, I think the sky is the limit there for Southern University. I'm just talking about year 1 now. That's all I'm referring to.
Well, you made a few fans, and I mean few. Looking in the chat room, G. Boom Holler says the NCAA has already started changing the rules to the portal. Yes. Transfer portal is the devil, Theo Quest says. Our colleague, Dr. Cavill, he says, I agree with Charles Edmond. Well, that is interesting. I know what I like. I know what my benchmark is, and we'll see what happens. I just disagree. I mean, there are things that have to take place. We mentioned the chemistry issue, buying into the culture. You know what? If a player is not going to buy in, and that happens sometimes, you know what happens to those players? They're gone. They're literally gone. And the players that you bring in, they're going to buy in, but you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to be competitive. And if I get Coach Johnson on this show, I hope he only says 2 things. We're going to show up, and we're going to play hard. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to take, I think, the conservative approach. But looking at that little clip, I think he gets it done. Miss me with the portal and a lot of players. Every team is affected by the portal because that's what it is right now. Players, you just stated Alcorn has lost some players, right? But you build depth. And my motto will be next man up. If you be competitive, you play hard. Hey, look, if they finish 6, as you stated, but they are competitive, they played hard, I'm gonna settle for that. And I understand what you're saying is year 1. But certain institutions, no matter what athletic program it is, it's tough, but they expect that you are near the top.
Well, here's the part, Carlos, about the buy-in. All right, so I talk about this all the time, and I talk with Coach Bussey and all coaches about it. The buy-in is easy early. You talk to a kid, and they'll say, "Oh, coach, I'm all in," until the grind hits. Mm-hmm. And when you have to change your mindset, you have to change your philosophy. You have to change the way you eat, the way you practice, the way you hit the weight room, the way you walk in the gym. All that has to change with a new coach. And so once you get into the grind of it, that's when you really can see if the buy-in is real. Because if not, then they're going to go the other way. And then you're in the middle of a season, and all of a sudden you have a player that's kind of that's kind of out there, and you're kind of wondering, is he really all in? And that messes with your chemistry. So early on, yes, players are excited. Yes, I'm all in, until you find out either from Coach Bussey or Coach Johnson or whoever that first year new coach is. Once you get into the nuts and bolts of it, that's when you know what the real deal is, because that's where the rubber meets the road in the grind of the season, the grind of conference. So the buy-in sounds easy early, and I've seen this firsthand. But once you get into the nuts and bolts of it, when you have to change literally everything that you do, especially if you were with the previous coach the previous year, that's when you know if you bought in or not. And that's what I've seen over the first, 3 years of Landon Bussey and his administration. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But if players don't buy in and you're in the middle of the season, it's going to impact the season. There's no question about it, because either they're going to be off to the side, they're not going to play. And these are kids that you put a lot of capital in, a lot of time and sweat equity. And now all of a sudden, now you don't have them because they're not all there. So now you got to make adjustments, and it could impact games. And we see how competitive these games are in conference. I'm kind of anxious to see how this goes with Coach Johnson. I think from what I've seen from my perch, I think it was a good hire. He's paid well. He'll have a bunch of assistants. Hey, all that stuff is fine. Those questions are answered. Now, let's see from the talent perspective. And yes, and I saw some of the posts. Gramblin's lost a lot. We've lost a lot. Jackson's lost some. So, yeah, it'll kind of bring teams down to earth a little bit. But that first year continuity and chemistry, that's going to be the real key in terms of staying in the top 3 or the top 4. I don't see it in year 1. That's why I say 5 or 6.
Well, it's been done before. First year coaches come in. So it's not like it's never happened before. Let me do this. Please make sure to say hello to everyone. Of course, hello to everyone preparing to watch the 2023 Cricket Wireless SIAC Track and Field Championship. Today is day 3, and most of the events will be held today. So we want to say hello to everyone there, and make sure you tune in. Also, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and like the stream today. I don't know if you noticed, but the Carlos Brown Show has they're on a new streaming platform, and I must say it is excellent. It looks excellent. That's right. The video looks much improved this morning. That's because of new streaming platform, and I'm elated. I'm elated. And Brian Fulford, Black College Sports Rap, and one of the hosts of the OG Strike Zone is producing today. So everyone give him a thumbs up as well. And he's a FAMU graduate. And guess what, Brian? FAMU, I think they're going to be picked to come out of the East. At least my early vote when we put up our stat of who we got coming out of the East and the West. Oh, thank you, James Verrett. Looks better, just like your Miami Heat. You doggone right, Charles.
Oh, no.
The Miami Heat. I'm going to be honest. I had Milwaukee winning the series. I've been down on my Heat. I've had several conversations with Pat Riley. I was a little bit down on Eric Spoelstra. And lo and behold, thank you, Edwin. Outstanding. Looking great. Go Jags. But, Charles, they were able to get it done. And Jimmy, playoffs bucket. I'm almost a loss for words. He turns it on. Now, we were talking earlier about turning it on, turn it off. He's consistently been turning it on. And if you would, just go Google his life story. Here's a young man that he had a tough upbringing. His mom told him, bye, good riddance. He would sleep over at teammates' house. But he worked his butt off, changed his life, and look where he's at now. Is he perfect as a human being, as a player? No. But, boy, you talking about literally put his team on his back and knock off the number 1 seed. And I think that's only the 3rd time that's happened in the history of the NBA. So kudos to the Miami Heat. Yeah, I got that in.
Yeah. Congratulations to your Heat, Carlos. Man, I mean, Jimmy Buckets is getting it done. flat out getting it done. And that's the Jimmy Butler that you expect to see. You know, quiet, as they say, quiet as it's kept. He's not quiet anymore. You know, the Knicks, it's going to be a great series, Miami and New York.
Yeah.
Tibbs knows, if there's anyone that knows Jimmy Butler's game on this planet, it's Tom Thibodeau. And it's going to be a great series down in South Beach or the Garden. I think that's going to be a terrific series. The chess match, you know, Tibbs loves defense. We'll see what they can do to slow down or shut down Jimmy Butler. Don't think it's going to happen, but I think that's going to be a great series to watch.
2 players, and one I'm going to put a lot of pressure on, and that's Bam Adebayo. He's got to play big. Sometimes he disappears. And then Kyle Lowry coming off the bench. They're going to need every bit of points that they can, because Thibodeau, I know he's a defensive guru, but it's going to be an exciting series. Well, when Coach Pettaway comes on, we're going to kind of get his perspective and talk more of the NBA playoffs, because right now, Charles, I'm going to be honest with you, it's been spectacular. Can Golden State survive in a Game 7? Sacramento got it done last night, but I'm gonna go off on a limb and say never underestimate the hearts of a champion. Golden State can win a Game 7, Charles. I'm sorry, but will they do it? That is the big question.
Yeah, you know, I'm a Laker fan and I'm a Golden State fan, and I think the Warriors had a chance to close it out, and they just flat out got whipped. And the game that they won prior to this one in Sacramento was the one I thought would catapult them to the series. Now they got to go back to Sacramento.
Tough.
Albeit you got a coach of Mike Brown that knows that team as well as anyone. That team's got a lot of confidence. It's going to be tough to win another big game on the road. If there's a team that can do it, you would say it's Golden State. I'm pulling for Golden State. I'm looking for that Laker-Golden State series, perhaps. I don't know if that's would be the matchup with the Lakers wrapping it up. I don't know. But I think it's going to be tough for Golden State, but you never underestimate the heart of a champion. They won one big game on the road. Can they win 2? I think it's going to be tough. I'm going with Golden State, though. I think they will find a way. Steph Curry will step up. Jordan Poole's got to play better. He didn't play well in the last game. He's got to step up. We know what Curry and Draymond, we know what the Splash Brothers going to bring, but Jordan Poole's got to step up. This is his moment, because this could be his team over the next few years. So this is got to be a big moment for him.
And you know, you're looking at the contrast. You got never underestimate the heart of a champions. Then you look at teams that have a good culture and they're tough. Miami, Golden State fits that category. But then you got the young legs, the Knicks, young players looking to make their way. Sacramento. So youth versus experience. We'll take a look at how much that plays a part into these matchups. But as I stated, it has been tremendous, from a excitement standpoint of this NBA playoffs. We've talked about Southern baseball preparing for the home stretch in the conference. Coach Crenshaw is still trying to get that pitching down. And can the bullpen get better in the time that's left heading into the SWAC baseball tournament? Will any HBCU football players get drafted on the last day of the NFL draft? But from a standpoint, in the first couple of picks, you've had 3 African-American quarterbacks for the first time, 1, 2, and 3, right off the bat. That has been impressive. We're hoping that some HBCU football players will get drafted. And then Alabama State and FAMU, Alabama State at home, they took game 1-0. Charles, can FAMU bounce back in game 2, or do you believe Alabama State wins this series? I think Alabama State will get it done and win 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I would even say a sweep. Because Alabama State is
Charles, a sweep.
Well, Alabama State has been there, done that, and bought the T-shirt, man. I mean, you just talked about experience. You just talked about it, and Alabama State has that. They have the cachet. FAMU, they were a team that was on the cusp, I thought, in the tournament last year, but their pitching just couldn't hold up once you got into these deep games. And that's going to be the key again in the tournament. Which team has the deeper bullpen? As you mentioned, Crenshaw's looking for a third starter. And I saw Southern up close and personal down in Baton Rouge a few weeks ago. If you get down into their bullpen, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. You know, they got to get innings from their starters, because if you go middle relief, long relief, short relief, I think they may be okay. But if you got a start, it's going to give you 3 innings and that's it. It's going to be lights out. It's going to be tough, because then you got Johnny Hole's staff. That means your whole staff is available to pitch, and that's not what you want in the tournament. So I think that's going to be the key. That's why Bama State is going to always be there, because they've got enough arms that, in some arms you haven't even seen. So that's why I give the edge to Bama State. I think they just have more arms to outlast you. And in the postseason, it's about pitching. It's about defense. And Bama State has that. You can slug your way to a championship. We thought that a few years ago when Jackson State went 24-0. Everybody said, hand them the trophy. And I have nothing against Omar Johnson. I think he's a really good coach. I said, not so fast. And you saw what happened. So pitching is what did them in, and a little defense as well. So I think that's why Bama State is built for this. They're built for the tournament, because they just have so many arms and different ways to come at you as far as pitching is concerned, that it's hard to adjust to that. So I think, I know Bama State will probably win the series. I wouldn't be surprised if they sweep Florida A&M, just to be honest with you. And I don't follow the East like I used to, because Alcorn's on the Western side. But I know Coach Vasquez. He is a Merville Melendez protege. Melendez brought him in as his assistant, and then he took over when Melendez left. I know what Bama State's got. They got a lot of arms, and that's good enough to win the tournament most years. And I think this year is one of those years.
Well, I would put a vote in for FAMU. Has been very consistent this baseball season. Very consistent. And they're not chopped liver, FAMU. So I predict they get one of these games. I got Alabama State winning this series, but a sweep, woo, Charles, I'll give you credit if it happens. I'll give you the credit. 1 minute before noon Central Standard Time, we'll take a break. And during the break, we'll try to catch up with Coach Vann Pettaway. And then following Coach Vann Pettaway will be Wheeler Brown. You're watching the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
T. Madden & Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden & Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden & Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Yeah, boy, you gotta love college athletic culture. You have to love the black college culture. And Charles, do not dare say Southern Band is going to be in 6th place. Oh my goodness, the scenery is just outstanding. Coach
You are
Pettaway,
right.
Coach Pettaway, good afternoon, sir. You're
Good
looking
afternoon.
outstanding.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. How you doing, Charles?
Good afternoon, Coach.
Well, Coach, you see the grin on my face, albeit I need to calm down. One series is over. The next series, the Knicks, going to be a tough opponent. But the Miami Heat shocked the world because I predicted Milwaukee to win it 4-2.
Yep, so did I.
Milwaukee goes down, and Coach Pettaway, let me just ask you this. The national prognosticators, they believe this series will cost the coach their job in Milwaukee. Is that a bit premature? But then I'm going to come back and look at the previous 6 years of playoffs for the Milwaukee Bucks, and it kind of tells a story. But anyway, what do you think, Coach Pettaway?
Well, I hope not. I hope that's not true because I think this year they had a lot of injuries now. And even in this series, Giannis went down. So I don't think they should base it on them losing to Miami. Miami, they just ran into a buzzsaw, man. There's no one playing better basketball than Jimmy Butler right now. I mean, he's on the roll. He's in a zone, and that for the Miami faithful, they better hope that zone continues because if it does continue, he can take him to the promised land. Because right now, nobody can stop him, man. He does what he wants to on the court on both ends of the floor, and I think to Miami's credit, I think their defense has been the reason why they've been able to win up until this point. Now, true enough, his offense has gone off the rails, but as a team, they play great team defense. And I think that's the reason why they got a chance. They got a chance against New York. Going into the Garden is going to be tough up there. But I just think that right now, Miami's in a good place. They took care of Milwaukee, and I even had Milwaukee coming out winning that series. But, that it just goes to show you don't know what's inside a guy's chest. When that heart is pumping that blood and they're moving and they're doing things, Jimmy Butler has put that team on his back. He's told those guys, let's go. He's gotten into Bam. Now, Bam is going to be a key now the rest of the way for the Heat. They got not only do they have to play well as a team, but Bam has to be an enforcer in order for Miami to reach their goals. And if they can do that and they ride the coattails of Jimmy Butler, because he is right now, he's playing better basketball than anybody in the playoffs. I mean, a lot of people want to give it to Booker, but no, Book is he can't touch what Jimmy's done right now. And I just think we have seen some great basketball. Now, and in the East, Miami, to me, even though they are AC, they're playing like a number 1 seed. They sit number 1 home. So I would not bet against Miami, not with the way they're playing. Now in the West, I'm just disappointed all the way around.
Interesting.
Because I thought that Golden State let a golden opportunity slip away from them. Now they got to go to Sacramento, and I don't think they're going to be able to come out of there because during the course of the season, they have shown that they don't play well on the road. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, they got that championship DNA. That is true. But championship DNA has not helped them all year when it comes to the road. So, and Sacramento has built a crowd. They got an atmosphere in that arena. And I think it's just going to be tough, man. And I think Golden State is in trouble. I think they're in trouble.
Well, and
go ahead.
And Coach, me and Charles kind of talked about it. We kind of put in the narrative the young legs versus experience, and we said that we thought Golden State is capable of going into the game 7, albeit we said it would be tough to do that. What about that narrative? The youth trying to make their way against the experienced teams. And the example I used was, Miami experience and with their culture. Boston would go into that youth and very talented. And wow, to me, Boston is now, in my opinion, the favorite to come out of the East. Although I'm hoping my Miami Heat, can do well. They matched up better against Milwaukee than Boston, in my opinion. But what about that narrative, Coach? Am I way off base? The youth trying to get their way against experience. Who usually wins in that?
Well, it just depends. Sometimes the youth, because they are young, they don't feel the pressure and they don't care. They play looser. They go after it because, like you look at what's happening at Sacramento. Who on Golden State can stay in front of De'Aaron Fox? Nobody's stayed in front of Fox so far. So if he's gonna have his way with them, they're gonna have a problem. They can't stop Fox. They can't stop Mark. Mark is
coming off the bench.
Right. And when you look at that, and then it takes me back to college basketball. You had Fox and Monk on the same team at Kentucky. They should have killed everybody when they played. But now they're in the NBA. They're playing well. They're young. Sacramento has one of the youngest teams in the league in terms of average age, and they don't care. Last night you go into Golden State. You beat the defending champs, NBA champs, on their home court. Now they're going home where they're going to be energized by that crowd. Now, to me, that's where their youth is going to be to their advantage. Because the younger guys are, they aren't that far removed from college, and that NBA arena is like a college atmosphere where the fans help them with that home court advantage. So it's going to be rough on Golden State to go in there to win that game tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be tough on them.
Charles, what about Memphis? Their youth, they ran their mouth a lot, and boy. The Lakers, and nobody's really talking about them, but I guess the general manager proves to have made an outstanding decision when he brought in those pieces at the trade deadline. And then Denver. I want to get your opinion, guys, on Denver. They are always favored to come out of the West as of late, but they never get it done. So the West and then Phoenix, we shall see. But Charles, what about Memphis in that narrative? They were young, they ran their mouth, and they got their mouth shut.
Yeah. Your lesson learned there. Just you don't poke the bear. That's number one. But I also think, as far as Memphis is concerned, they were never the same team once Ja went out. And you can look at John Moran. I mean, he is a terrific dynamite talent. But what he went through and all of that, I think that set Memphis back just a little bit, to where I think they missed him when he was gone. And I just think he just looked like a different player. Now, I didn't think he obviously wasn't 100%, but he played lights out. I think Memphis was rolling along in the West until the whole John Morant thing came up. And look, that's a lesson learned for a young team and a young coach there, that you, first of all, you don't poke LeBron James and that team. LeBron has been there, done that. He's forgotten more basketball than many of those guys know. So you don't do. Dylan Brooks should never have done what he did, and you saw the consequence of it. But I think Memphis has got a great upside. I love John Morant's game, but John Morant's got to deal with John Morant, and hopefully he will. Hopefully he'll be better of it off the court and make better decisions, because he is the heart and soul of that Memphis franchise. So that's as far as I'll take that. I like the Joker. I love Denver, but it's something about Phoenix and this, with KD. I mean, the Phoenix Suns are rounding out into shape. I mean, you got Devin Booker, you got Kevin Durant, and you got CP3. He's thirsty for a championship. They're getting better and better. you know, and they disposed of the Clippers. And even though it's Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you know, people are talking about Kawhi and his health issues, Paul George as well. But I like Phoenix and I like Denver. I like both of those teams. It's gonna be fun. And I put the Lakers on the outside of that because of their age. But man, I love Denver. I love Phoenix. I think both those teams have great upsides, especially with KD coming to Phoenix. I think that puts the Phoenix Suns in a whole nother stratosphere in the West.
Right, but Charles, one of the things that I like Denver also, but to me, they run everything through Jokic, and I think that to me that handicaps them.
Yeah,
because you got too many people standing around waiting to see what he's going to do next. And then you got players like Murray. They got good skilled people, but I think because they run so much of their offense through Jokic, I think it stalls them down. Right.
Yeah.
It bogs down their offense. To me, they don't have that continuity. And then, they've never been known for defense. So I think even with that, if Phoenix can stay healthy and Booker stay on the roll that he's on, I think even though they're the number 4 seed, I think they can beat them.
Yeah.
They can beat them.
Well, you almost – it almost sounds like, Coach Pettaway, you wouldn't be surprised if some of the lower seeds are in the championship, the NBA championship, or at least the conference. See, I'm going to go back to Memphis. And I'm going to have to give credit to Steve Adams. He's out. And who else from Memphis? Another big.
Clark.
And to me, that is a bigger issue. I understand what y'all saying about Morant, but for the physicalness on Anthony Davis is having his way. I mean, and to me, that has always been the player. When they defeated Miami in the bubble, Miami had no answer for Anthony Davis. Now, if he can stay upright and healthy, the last game he altered as many shots as he blocked. I mean, and Adams adds that toughness, and Clark that toughness and that athleticism. And all I'm saying is they're sorely missed. And but injuries are part of the games. You have to play through them.
Right. But see, that took away, losing both of those guys took away from their depth at that position in the paint. That just left Jackson there. But now I don't think enough credit has been given to Jackson, because coming into the series, everybody was saying that he was going to get in foul trouble. For the most part, he stayed on the floor. It's just that he was by himself when it came to rebounding and defending. He really needed Adams and Clark to be available. But one of the things that Memphis has to look at, and I think Charles touched on it, Morant has to look at himself during the offseason. If he's going to be the face of that franchise, he's got to act like it, and he's got to grow up. He's got to become more of a mature person, and his inner circle, they got to pull his coattail, man. Because you talking about a guy that at one time they were talking about he might be the face of the NBA. That's not going to happen now. But he needs to save his career. He needs to save that franchise by looking in the mirror and getting his act together. I think that's the only thing that's going to save Memphis, because they got a lot of talent. They are young, and they're on the up. They're going up, man. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to drop off. They're going to remain in that top 2 or 3 out there in the West. But if Morant does not get himself together, they won't last. They will not last.
Let me ask you, both of you, a team that people are not talking about, but they had, arguably the MVP at one point, Joel Embiid. Now I think he's a little banged up, but Philly, is this a playoff series that the coach will maybe be in trouble? But how do you feel about Philadelphia? Now they're going up against Boston. Boston will be favored. Can Philly, if Embiid is 100% or 9%, will they have a chance against Boston?
I
If
think
Joel Embiid is handicapped, the 76ers have no chance.
no chance. Yep, I agree.
Have no where Joel Embiid goes is where the 76ers go.
Yep.
He's my vote for MVP. There's no doubt about it. You know, I just think that he puts that team on his back, and where he goes, that team goes. And so if they don't beat Boston, and even though Doc Rivers was interviewed about it recently and said, hey, he's not feeling any pressure. Hey, he understands where he's at in Philadelphia, where that it's all about, you know, the championship with Daryl Morey and all that. I get that, but it's I think at least the conference finals are bust for Philadelphia. If they don't get there, then I think there's going to be tremendous heat with the amount of money with James Harden and all. I think there's tremendous pressure if they don't at least get to the conference finals. And if Joel Embiid is not healthy, even though Boston kind of stunk up the joint, you know, Trey Young hit that 35-footer. They bounced back nicely with a big win in Atlanta. I think if Joel Embiid is not healthy, I just can't see a 7-game series in which the Philadelphia 76ers beat Boston. I can't see it. It could happen. I mean, he could pull a Willis Reed and come out of the tunnel. But I don't see that happening though. Boston's too good, too talented, too fresh.
Yep.
And so Joel Embiid's got to be close to 100% for them to have a chance.
Right. And now, Charles, I agree with you. I don't think they have a shot if he's not 100%, because he does so much for Philadelphia when he plays as a 7-footer. Now, when he wants to be a small forward, he hurts them, in my opinion. You know, he wants to stand out there and jack up them threes. There's not anybody in the NBA that can handle him in the post. And if he played low post and high post, I don't think anybody can deal with him, man. And he's such a great passer that if he gets in that position and they double team, he can find open passes for his teammates. But if he's not 100% and if he's not mentally ready to be a 5-man, they're not going to win that series, in my opinion. They will not win the series. But if he's locked, if he's 100% and he wants to play the 5, Boston does not have an answer for him. But now, Philadelphia also, now on the defensive end, when they're talking about trying to stop Brown, they don't have an answer for him now. You know, Marcus Smart, he can defend any of the top 3 for Philadelphia. He can stay in front of all of them. All right. But no, they cannot. Philadelphia does not have the defense to stop Boston when they're ready to play.
Yeah. You know, that's a valid point. And I talk to my best friend all the time. You know, Joe Embiid, man, get him down in the post and keep him there. That's an excellent point. And then another player, to me, that we watch is Maxey. Oh boy, you can see the development. He's growing, and man, he has the speed of Westbrook almost, getting up and down the court. And then Doc Rivers, I agree with Charles. I think it's going to be tremendous pressure. And you know, Doc Rivers always takes the position, well, I'm not under pressure. Look, but if you look at his history, he's come close, and as of late, they hadn't been able to just push over to the top. So with that being said, I never thought I would be making this statement, but there is a possibility you have a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals, but the only difference is Boston will have the home court advantage. It's a possibility. It's a possibility, but the Knicks in Miami, but I put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals, guys. In my humble opinion.
Yeah, that could very easily happen.
And Boston would be the favorite again.
Yep.
Well, Coach Pettaway, let me ask you a question since we talked about Embiid. So we talked about the Joker, all right? I kind of compare him to Luka in Dallas in terms of how the ball gets stuck when they're in those two guys' hands. But then you look at Embiid. So you look at those 3 bigs, clearly probably the top 3 bigs in the league, the Joker, Luka, and Embiid. Do you think with Philadelphia, what is Philadelphia doing with Embiid in which the ball doesn't get stuck as compared to what we've seen with Luka and the Joker, in which as you talked about, and I agree, the ball does get stuck when they're in those guys' hands.
Right. Well, see, I think here's the difference. Harden has the ball a lot for Philadelphia. So when he makes the decision as to when Embiid gets the basketball, whereas in Joker and Luka's case, they dominate the ball. They already have the ball. So they determine if their teammates are going to get involved. And then what you're seeing, and which I don't like, they hold the ball so long. Now when the shot clock is down, they either forcing a shot or they're giving the ball to their teammate with the shot clock running out. And now you got to make a desperation shot. And I just don't think, to me, their offense is bogged down when you hold the basketball. You can't call them the black hole now because, some guys, I call them the black hole, like in the scouting report. You put it on the block. You don't have to worry about them passing or finding a teammate. That's the black hole. But they're not the black hole, but they dominate the ball so much that when they do get it out into the open, there's not very much time left on the shot clock for anybody to do any dealing on their own.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, excellent point. And when I look at my team, Miami Heat, sometimes and I think, Coach, you hit on it, they go into these offensive droughts, scoring droughts, but when they're at their best is when there's plenty of spacing and ball movement. And one thing I notice about the Celtics, good spacing. I mean, they stretch the floor out. And let me tell you something. Tatum gets all the credit, but the guy who worries me the most is Brown. I mean, and Smart gives you that tough defense. Williams is an undersized center, very athletic, but he's defensive oriented. And that's why I put the pressure on Bam going forward. He's very athletic, but he's got to give them more than just a defensive pressure and blocking. He brings the ball up the court a lot, but they're going to need more scoring from him. But Boston spacing, I mean, if you're not good defensively, they're gonna exploit your weaknesses very quickly with that space. And Coach Pettaway, I agree with the Embiid statement, and also, and Charles brought up. I agree with you, Luka. I mean, yeah, you're just standing around looking because he's so talented, but it's not an eye, it's we, and that's why they have to get more involved.
And see, that's why you take James Harden. Prior to him getting to Philadelphia, he used to dominate the ball, especially when he was in Houston. All right, but look at the adjustment he's made. He's not dominating the ball now as much as he did at his other two stops. He's making sure that he's getting Maxey involved. See, when they first made that trade, I was like, that's going to hurt Maxey, because now Maxey is not going to develop because he's not going to be in a position to where he's going to have the ball. But James has adjusted his game. He does not take as many shots as he did at his other previous spots, and he's making sure that he's distributing the basketball. And I think he has a lot to do with the success. He's probably the reason why Embiid is going to end up being the MVP this year. And Charles, if I had a vote, Embiid would have been my choice for MVP. And now a lot of people sleep on Tatum, but I thought Tatum also had a great year. Jokic, he's going to have a great year because he can control his points, his rebound. He controls it because he's got the ball. Embiid has to have help. Somebody else has to make sure he gets the ball in the right spot for him to be effective. That's why I would vote him as the MVP of the league. And I think with the success that they've had at Philly, where he's got Philly in the playoffs now, how they finished the regular season, he would definitely get my vote.
On that note, that's a great point to take a break right here on the Coles Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. When we come back, Coach Pettaway, we might add another guest, Willa Brown. I think we'll do that. And then also, back to this transfer portal. More conversation now coming about how it affects college athletics. It's good, but I'm also starting to see more of the bad creeping up. And I simply just put it, free agency has come, not will come, has come to college athletics. And I just feel some type of way about it. I mean, anyway, I'll stop there. We'll take a break. We'll come back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
I tell you, if you have to take blood pressure medicine, you need to take it after that segment. Wow, I'm getting older. Sometimes the pressure gets to me. We're adding Willa Brown here. Willa, good afternoon to you, sir. You're looking very dapper.
Yeah. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Hey, Carlos, during the commercial, I had a flashback, and it's gonna hit Charles them. They had the smoke shop where they did the commercial on the smoke shop doing the cigars. This is a true story. I'm at Alcorn. We're doing pretty good on the floor against the Braves. A whip of either a cigar or a pipe came from that lobby and hit me on that bench. And it made me sick. And I come to find out, Charles, your baseball coach, the legendary baseball coach, he either had a cigar or that pipe. And I had my man. I say, man, go out there and close that door. And I promise you, it took me away from the game because it made me nauseous.
Wow.
And Alcorn, but now even without that, I was playing against Coach Whitney, so I was gonna probably lose the game anyway. But they came back and they won that game. But when that coach found out that cigar was whatever he was smoking was getting to me, I guarantee you he hadn't moved yet.
Boy, some of the things you have to go through on the road in college athletics.
And
And
that was true Rat McGowan too, Coach Pettaway. He wasn't even supposed to be lighting that pipe in the building. That's against the law. You get thrown in jail for that. No smoking. He didn't care.
and you know, and speaking of Rat McGowan, the one we crossed paths, and he was at A.W. Mumford Stadium. Alco was playing Southern, and I kind of mentioned something about Coach Richardson, and boy, he just went off. He basically said Southern ran off a legend, and I'm telling you, you're going to fall on hard times because of that. And we kind of went back and forth, but in that one instance, I knew I wasn't going to win that argument. So I let Coach talk.
The portal.
Yeah. And speaking of the portal, Wheeler and Coach Pettaway, Charles talked about Coach Johnson. We played a little interview with him coming on, and Charles says, it's tough being a first-year coach and coming into let me back up. Coming into a situation the first year is going to be tough. He says he thinks they're going to be in 6th place for year one, all said and done. I disagree on that one. But talk about that, how tough it is, albeit if you're AD coming into a position the first time or first year at a new institution is what I'm trying to say. How tough is that? And then we'll get into the transfer portal, because I'm quite honestly, I know it's here to stay. There'll be some adjustments to it, but it's good in a way. But also, I'm starting to see a lot of bad things happening. But first and foremost, Wheeler, first year, coach coming to a different program. He's got some obstacles to overcome. Coach Johnson at Southern University, 6th place? Really? I don't know, but Charles could be right. That wouldn't set well. That wouldn't set well with me.
He could very well be right. I mean, I would think that the goal primarily would be to be in the upper third of the conference on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
And, anything less than that would probably be, quote unquote, unacceptable. But when you're a first-time head coach or even a first-time administrator or your first time being on campus, hell, it takes you 6 months to find a restroom. So, I mean, and when I say to try to find a restroom, I mean in terms of learning where the bodies are buried, learning about the nuances, who's on your side and who's not on your side, because, just like at any institution, everybody's not for athletics. Wherever that person in that position may be. But you, as a first-time coach or first-time administrator, you got to navigate that. You got to find out who's on your team and who's not on your team, and it's going to take a while in order to do that. And as Charles was saying, I was listening in earlier. Your team, your department may suffer a little bit in the meantime, while you try to navigate those things. So I think somehow you got to put all that into the equation, when you are kind of being a soothsayer, so to speak, in terms of, your wishes, for your particular program. You got to be kind of understanding of that, but we all know that, anything less than an upper third conference finish is probably not going to be acceptable, and that will probably be at any institution, not just at Southern, but from an administrative point of view, we as athletic administrators, we have to understand that, and we have to build that into our equation, when we're evaluating, first time and first year coaches. And I like to always say that, we always kind of take those things, with a grain of salt. We're looking for other things to evaluate our first year coaches on outside of wins and losses. We got to evaluate their grasp of the particular program. We got to evaluate how the kids respond, to their methods. Whether or not the coach can get across, to the kids his way of thinking. Whether or not they all see eye to eye in terms of, strategy, offensive and defensive fundamentals and things of that nature. There are tons of things to evaluate a first-time coach on outside of wins and losses. It just so happens that, all our fans and probably our presidents and things of that nature, that's all they see are wins and losses. But we as athletic administrators, we got to take that other road in terms of our evaluation process. And we also have to take into account, Carlos, when that coach is hired. If we brought that person in the middle of the recruiting season, can you really expect him to bring in top level talent right away? Unless he has some guys, waiting in the wings or something like that. Is it realistic? Is it realistic to do that? So like I said, you just got to find other ways to measure that coach and to measure success, outside of wins and losses. But yeah, it's going to take 6 months to find out where the toilet is. And then if there's no toilet paper in the toilet, Carlos, then it's gonna take you another month to find out where the toilet paper comes from. It's just a fact of life.
Well, wait a minute. Well, I'm glad I know the stock clerk who'll have all those essentials with him from day one. And
Right.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what Charles said. I'm gonna go to Coach Pettaway, but guess what? Third, the top third. That's still my opinion. Coach Pettaway, can you go back to your first year at Alabama A&M?
Right. That's what I was going to say. He's absolutely correct. You got to have an adjustment to the culture that you're going into. My first year, I'm following Coach Joe. We had 6 seniors off the team that left. So our expectations weren't that high. Everybody's, well, Coach Joe's gone. We had 6 seniors. We're not going to do very well. All right. I first of all had to find out how many of those people that were in Coach Joe's corner were going to remain in my corner. That was the first thing I had to figure out. Then
it's
the
called
second
politicking.
thing, right.
Politicking,
And then the next thing, now you look at your personnel. Look, that coach has to look at the personnel. Now, do I have what I need to run my system, or am I going to have to make an adjustment as a coach to the personnel that I had? And then A.D. Brown just brought up a very good point. What time of the year did I get the job, or did that coach come in? Did that coach have an opportunity to bring his own kid, or is he dealing with the roster that he was left with? Was he able to add any pieces, that kind of thing? So that first year, yes, you every program is going to say, I want you to finish in the top third, but is that realistic? After coming into a place, what did the roster look like when I came on board? That kind of thing. But fortunately for me, yes, the kids that we were recruiting, I was recruiting them along with Coach Joe. So I was able to keep everybody we were recruiting, and we started out. I guess by the end of January, we were like 12-2. So our president said he wanted a big name coach. He was talking about, well, I need somebody like Big House Games, and he was calling out. He even mentioned Coach K. He wanted a name coach, and all I said to my president was, well, Big House Games now. Did you know him when he first started coaching? Did you know Coach K when he first started coaching? I said, all I'm asking you to do is let me do my own legacy. But in order for me to have a legacy, I need to have a star. So let me be your coach. And I told him, I said, I tell you what, you let me have this job, and if at the end of the first year, if you're not happy, we can move on. I said, but don't do it to these kids. Don't do it to these kids. And that was Dr. Covington, and he says, well, okay, Vann, we're gonna let you have it. All right. So they gave me an interim title. by the end of January, that interim had become full time because we were 12-2. He saw the relationship I had with the kids. He saw how we were winning on the court and what we did. Yeah, we brought in a lot of new faces, but the kids bought in. We recruited those kids. Right. See, to me, that's the key. When you come into a new place, you got to learn those players. They got to learn you. If those kids do not buy in, it's not going to help you. And I know we keep harping about this portal. The portal is not always a quick fix now, because to me, the portal is nothing but a larger JUCO. You know, back when coaches used to always go to the JUCO, they went after experienced kids, right? But now, if those experienced kids come in and they don't mesh well together, you still have a problem on your hand. And one of the prime examples was in the SWAC this year, Florida A&M. Those kids did not gel. That man had 9 new players on that team. They didn't gel to the end of the year. The season was over by the time they gelled. And they still did not gel to coach's expectation. So just because the portal is out there, just because JUCOs are out there, that does not guarantee you success on the floor. It comes down to the kids in that locker room believing in you, believing in each other, and believing in the way you're going to play, your philosophy.
And Carlos,
sounds like coaching. Sounds like coaching still matters.
For a first-time head coach, Carlos, the biggest recruiting job that they have is recruiting the kids that are already there.
Right.
You got to re-recruit those kids that are there. You know, you gotta see where their heads are. You got to see whether or not they're going to be able to adapt and adjust to your style. You got to be able to see whether or not, you know, you guys are going to mesh what's there right now. You know, because as Coach Pettaway said, you can't replace everybody at the same time. It's almost impossible.
Right.
You know, so those are the things you gotta think about.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going back to coaching. Let's just take a look. The last couple of years, I'll be quick. The roster that Southern has, they'll probably lose a few. They've already added 3 players. But that roster was good enough to be in first place for 2 or 3 of the last 3 years. But then in February, they faded. I don't think that's by accident. I'll just leave that at that point. Another point. We're looking at the University of Colorado. That's in the news. You see how they just overhauled the team through that portal? I think the same things you're talking about, well, you'll have to look and see, will it happen at Colorado in football? Or is it because the coach there is so dynamic with his name, it doesn't matter that he's overhauling the whole team?
I think
should they be expected to win 11 games?
Carlos,
or 12?
Carlos, if this was anybody other than Deion Sanders, there would be an uproar in terms of 50 kids hitting the transfer portal.
Really?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You know, you're talking about a team of 85 scholarship players, and you got 50 kids that have hit the transfer portal. Now, I know they were 1-11. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but you mean to tell me out of those 51 kids, there's nobody that was good enough to play for that team moving forward? I don't understand that. And I believe there's going to be a short leash out there somewhere. You know, I'm hoping and praying that it works and he's able to be successful, you know, right away. But my thought is that it's going to be a short leash out there somewhere, you know. And while they might not be expecting a championship this first year, believe you me, they are expecting a heck of a turnaround out there. And if it doesn't happen, I don't think the leash is going to be as long as the leash was, at Jackson State or maybe at one of our other HBCUs, because of all the pomp and circumstance that surrounded the person in question.
Right, but now in his defense, now all of those he didn't get rid of all of them. Some of them saw the light, and they took themselves out of the situation by getting in the portal. But now my biggest concern: how is this going to affect the APR? They don't have APR in Colorado.
They do.
Okay, how are you going to get? How are 50 kids going to leave your program and it does not affect the APR? Because you're not going to tell me all those kids were eligible to transfer now, when they transferred, rather.
That I can't answer, but I mean, you look across the landscape, that is a concern when you're having that much turnover. So, Charles, back to my original statement, free agency has come to college athletics. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Look, I understand you had that argument, guys, that not per se on our level, but overall, they make millions of dollars for, from a business standpoint. And so they should be, compensated. And they kind of do that now with the NIL. But free agency, amateurism, college athletics, it has changed. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, free agency to college athletics.
I think at this point, the cat's already out the bag. And at this point, I don't think a lot of people care because coaches get paid a lot of money to win games. And in a lot of programs, they get paid to turn it around right now.
Yep.
So I think, even if you look at Coach Johnson, he made more money than Sean Woods made. There's an expectation that this thing's got to turn around fairly quickly. I said top 6. I said 5th or 6th. I said it'll be a slight drop off, but he's being paid to at least elevate the program to the top 3. The Alcorns, the Gramblings of the world, and the Texas Southerns. The expectation is in year 1, he's got to be pushing one of those teams to the top 3. Don't know if it's going to happen, but that's the expectation. And you talked about APR, Carlos. That's another thing that Coach Johnson has to deal with. The big question, I'm sure you're going to have him on here, how many scholarships does he have available to get players? With APR, you just can't get rid of. Sometimes you got to stick with what you got to get through that. So if he only has 4 scholarships or 5, he's got to make some decisions in terms of that roster. That roster might have to stay intact. So then you have to look at those players that are there. Can you improve and elevate? And will those players be receptive to the coaching?
But that
Landon Busty made no bones about it when he got to Alcorn. It's defense first. If you're not ready to play defense, you will not be there. And there were players that fell by the wayside in that regard. And so for Coach Johnson, that's an adjustment, the type of coach he's going to have to be, and he will be. Can he make the adjustment? As Wheeler Brown said, that's one adjustment there in terms of the players adjusting to Southern University. And then here's the other thing, Carlos, that's probably low on the totem pole, but Tulane's basketball budget's a lot bigger than Southern's basketball budget.
Yep.
You have to get adjusted to those things as well. The long bus rides.
But wait a minute, Charles. Don't you know he knows that?
I'm sure he does. I'm not saying that was not a factor, but I'm saying that's an adjustment though. When you're used to certain things and then all of a sudden it's different, there is a period of adjustment that you have to make. And at the same time, you have to make that adjustment and still win games in the process.
I understand that, but every coach has to go through that. He's not doing anything any different than anybody else.
I agree.
Carlos, would you have expected him to say, well, I'm not going to take this job because of the long bus ride, or I'm not going to take this job because there are only 3 scholarships available? A head coaching job is a head coaching opportunity, and he knows in his heart of heart that opportunity may not come around again, if not for another 4 or 5 years or what have you. So sometimes the disadvantage is coming in the door. but I'm also almost certain that's why his contract is the way that it is. That's why probably concessions were made in terms of him getting the requisite number of assistant coaches that he needs.
5.
So I'm sure there was some give and take
He can have up to 5.
on both sides.
Wow.
There's some give and take on both
What
sides.
in the world?
But yeah,
But
I've
guess
always
what?
said,
Coach Woods, I think had, I want to say 4. I may be wrong on that, 3 or 4. Somebody in the chat room, let me know if I'm wrong. I want to say it was 4. But you've seen the investment that they've made. They're taking Coach Pettaway. You want to say something?
I'm just saying, man. I had 2 coaches, and man, this is a different world. I'm gonna tell you something now.
That's the point.
The excuses got to get out the window, man. If you got all your scholarships, you got a recruiting budget, and you got a doggone full staff. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Now that AD part of me comes out, let's get it done. I've given you 5 coaches. You got a recruiting budget. You got all your scholarships. Dr. Brown, Mr. Willie Brown, I expect you to win.
And that's what I'm saying. Yep.
You gonna put me in the top 3rd, or you need to get the step. That's the AD coming out now.
And
Coach Pettaway,
Brown would say that.
Now you gotta have an assistant coach for the assistant coach.
Yep.
So everybody got an assistant now.
Wow, man. That's amazing. But Carlos, going back to that portal, if I just got one thing to say to parents: do not allow your child to jump in that portal without you doing your research. Look at the thousands of kids. Every year we have over 1,000 kids jumping in the basketball portal. Basketball. And out of that 1,000, it's in the low hundreds that actually get a scholarship somewhere else. There are too many kids that are sitting at home who had a scholarship and no longer have one because somebody didn't do their research. Mm-hmm. And I still say, unless your child is being mistreated by that coaching staff or someone in that institution, you better really look at what's going on, because you don't let your child leave because I'm not playing enough. Well, if you're not playing enough, there's a reason why. Because that guy that's sitting at the end of the bench, he gonna play his best players. Mm-hmm. He gonna put people on the floor to win. So now, if your child is not getting the minutes that they need, start doing your research. Well, if my kid practicing the way they're supposed to practice, is my kid following everything, the rules and regulations of the team, of the institution? Is my child putting the work in to be better at their craft? These are the things that we as parents, we have to ask ourselves before we allow our kids to jump in the portal, because the grass is not always green on the other side. Mm-hmm. In fact, sometimes you might get out there and find out that instead of a grass, there's a doggone desert over there.
Mm-hmm. So and Coach, we just lost our best kid at Fort Valley State a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And he was a sophomore, and he was player of the year in the SIAC. And he came in pretty much as soon as the conference tournament was over, came in and started inquiring about getting into the transfer portal. And he's in the portal now. I'm thinking he committed somewhere, but I don't know if it's on par with what he had at Fort Valley State. And I mean, I'm like, geez, son, come on.
That's why I have mixed emotions about this. I mean, I know it's the wave, and we're looking at instant gratification. You got to win. We've been talking about Coach Johnson in year one. Traditionally, you had 4-5 years to get things done. That's gone. In some cases by year 2. We seeing people, student athletes, change 3 schools in a calendar year in the portal. Albeit there are new rules in place now where you'll get a pass the first set. Well, I don't want to say a pass, but you can transfer one time. Then the second time you have to show just cause. Once again, I guess it's ever changing in athletics, and those who can navigate through this process will be successful. But I'm still back to coaching fundamentals. That still goes a long way in building a program. But unfortunately now the quick fix is the trend. And I just personally don't think that's always the best way
I agree with you.
to go.
I agree with you, Carlos. And right here in the SWAC, I'm gonna stay right here at A&M. Last year, when Jalen Johnson entered the portal, I tried to call him. He never returned the call. I talked to the new coaches. I said, hey, this is a kid that has been all SWAC ever since he's been in the SWAC. You all need to try to keep him here. Well, he wanted to go to Milwaukee. Well, guess what? He's in the portal again because he didn't play up there. He didn't play. He left a place where he was one of the top players in our league in the SWAC. All the coaches knew him. They knew his game. They rewarded him with his efforts on the court, and that still was not enough. He decides to get in the portal. He goes to another place where he's not even the seventh man. And now he's in the portal again. All right. This year, Hicks, the guard from A&M, he's in the portal. He's now announced that he's going to Sanford. All right, he's going from one Bulldog program to another. One of them's in the SWAC, one of them's in another league. Now we're going to see how that's going to play out. Now he's going to one of the top coaches in our state now because Bucky's done a great job. Now that's a guy who got a good start, Mr. Brown. This guy went from high school. First head coaching job was in high school. He goes there, wins 3 or 4 state championships. He goes to Sanford, and he's been successful at Sanford since he's been in the door. This is going into his 3rd year now. So his first 2 years, he was a success. So he's proven that he can go and make the adjustments. And now he's getting players from the SWAC, to come to his program. So that portal is not a fix-all for everybody. I think in a lot of cases, it does more harm than good. At one point, I was keeping up with the number of kids from the SWAC who had jumped in the portal, but that thing got so big, and to be honest, they stopped updating the list. So I lost track of how many more. I got the 3 from Alcorn. I got a couple. Well, Bama State had a lot too in there, but every school in the SWAC, if I'm not mistaken, had people in the portal. And that's not good for our league because now some of those kids, will they get other places? Yes. Will their situations be better than what they left? In some cases, it's not going to be. They think it's going to be at this point, but some of those kids are not doing the research. And I know some of the parents are not doing the research.
Well, Carlos, we're not even talking about that. That's the men. Okay, so on two quick points. PJ Henry, Texas Southern, he hit the portal, but then he comes back. Okay, obviously something worked out to where he's able to come back. Some coaches have said on the record, if you transfer, you're not coming back. The door is closed. Just like you're looking to move on, we're looking to move on. But PJ Henry apparently is back. And then on the women's side, Carlos, we haven't talked about this. There are a lot of SWAC women basketball players that have hit the portal. I was told the other day the top 3 at Prairie View are in the portal. Bama State's got a bunch in the portal. We've got a bunch in the portal. So even on the women's side, you're seeing the same type of thing happen, and some of those players are not going to end up anywhere or where they think they should be.
That is interesting because as we speak, I know on the men's side, I only know of one. That was Terrell Williams. Now, it could be more. I'll check. On the women's side, I don't think they've lost anybody, but I'll check and report back. I just want everybody to just, kind of think about this, transfer portal. A lot of times I get questions of, not that how is Southern's football program is doing, how many new people they've got out of the portal. That dominates the conversation. And sometimes it's just a bit uncomfortable. And then these star ratings, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. I had a coach tell me that that's overrated. But that's the bright lights, and that's what some, not all. That's the first thing. How many stars are there? And then there's the haves and the have-nots. for its resources. I have people that ask me, try to compare Southern with a Texas A&M as far as resources. They don't realize the difference.
Yep.
It's a different conversation. That's not even apples and oranges.
Right.
But at the end of the day, at our schools, I am most proud of when they build a program the traditional way. You get a kid from a freshman, particularly till he's a senior, with a degree in the hand and an opportunity to do whatever he wants in life and be successful. But I'm finding that is just not the case anymore, and I'm just disturbed about it. But I'm just one voice, just one opinion. Closing comments from the members of this panel. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Yeah, we need more discussion about the portal in the weeks to come.
Put you down for that one, Wheeler.
We have become a farm system for the larger schools.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the transfer portal has turned HBCUs into. We're a farm system now. You know, you got coaches out there on their upper levels that are just waiting, probably scouring film and things of that nature to see, you know, what type of quality kids we have on our roster that they can pluck or maybe extend an olive branch to, that sort of thing. And it's happening. If we think it's not happening, we're just kidding ourselves.
Yep.
You know, but we talk about adding extra assistant coaches. And you need an assistant coach for the portal, you know, to actively recruit those kids that are in the portal. You know, to look at those kids that are in the portal, research those kids in the portal, and find out where they are, where they're going, are they a good fit for us, so forth and so on. So, you know, I'm with Coach Pettaway. I mean, we could probably do 2 hours on the portal by itself, but it's something that needs to be put out there, Carlos, and you know, people need to be up in alarm if they're not. You know, because we think the NCAA has control over this. You know, I don't think that they do. You know, I think they'll nitpick at it in order to make folks think that, you know, we're trying to control it, we're trying to do this, and we're trying to do that. But at the end of the day, the rich is going to get richer, and the poor is going to get poorer. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Charles, Pandora's box has been opened. The genie's out the bottle.
Yeah. Last week, Dr. Cavill put out a post about, I think we're talking about the portal. Of course, the NCAA is governed by presidents and the universities. So those individuals will have to circle the wagons on that. The NCAA, all they do is just administer the policy. So it's up to the ADs and the coaches and the presidents to actually put the policy on the table. So we have to maybe do a little bit of deeper dive into that. But I don't think this thing is going away anytime soon. There's just too much money to be made, too much money to be lost, and players have opportunity to make money, move around, NIL. There's just a lot more moving pieces now than it was 5 years ago, and I think it's going to be even more pieces sliced and dissected.
I think Willa said it the best. I'll term it this way: the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
The rich gets richer, the poor gets poor, and there's no in between. No in between. That's the way it is. Make sure the BCSN Pod Zone can be found on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I want to thank Brian Fulford for engineering today's show. As you can tell, I've got a lot of good positive feedback, a new streaming platform, and the difference is like night and day.
Yep.
I mean, just beautiful. If you can make me look any younger, I love it. and everybody looks great. I appreciate it. Well, for all of the guests, appreciate you. We'll do it again next week. Until next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. As always, peace and God bless.